History often celebrates loud revolutions, but the most powerful ones usually begin in silence. Imagine a city where the law decides where you sit, where you stand, and when you must disappear. A city where obedience is expected and resistance is punished. In 1955, Montgomery, Alabama, was such a place. Segregation was not a social habit. It was a command. On its streets, life appeared orderly. Buses followed their routes. Shops opened and closed on time. Yet beneath this routine lived a constant humiliation, enforced daily and without apology. For Black citizens, dignity was conditional. It could be taken away with a word, or a gesture, or an order. On December 1st, that order was given. A bus driver demanded compliance. A city expected surrender, and the law stood ready to punish defiance. But one woman remained seated. She was not famous. She was not wealthy. She held no public office and commanded no crowd. She carried no weapon, raised no voice, and made no speech. Yet in that quiet refusal, something fractured. What followed would expose the weakness of unjust law, ignite a movement that reshaped a nation, and redefine the meaning of courage itself. This is not a story about a moment of exhaustion. It is the story of decades of preparation, of a woman shaped by fear, discipline, and moral clarity, of a life lived under pressure long before history took notice, before the headlines, before the boycotts, before the world learned her name. This is the story of Rosa Parks and how one quiet act forced an entire country to confront its conscience. The story of Rosa Parks did not begin on a bus. It began in a country where the law itself demanded obedience to injustice, and where courage often meant standing alone. Rosa Louise McCauley was born on February 4, 1913, in Tuskegee, Alabama, during an era when segregation was not merely accepted, it was enforced by statute, custom, and violence. Since 1896, the doctrine of separate but equal had shaped American life, legitimizing racial division through law. Tuskegee reflected this divided reality. Wooden homes lined dusty roads in Black neighborhoods, while brick courthouses, schools, and civic buildings symbolized authority reserved for white citizens. At night, fear moved openly. As a child, Rosa witnessed Ku Klux Klan riders passing through her neighborhood, their presence a deliberate act of intimidation. Her grandfather guarded the family home after dark with a shotgun across his lap. In that silence, Rosa learned that dignity required vigilance. Education offered brief refuge. At the Montgomery Industrial School for Girls, Rosa encountered an idea considered radical for its time, that Black girls deserved discipline, critical thinking, and self-respect. Yet, inequality intervened. When illness struck her grandmother and later her mother, Rosa left school to become a caregiver. Opportunity was postponed, but resolve was strengthened. In 1932, she married Raymond Parks, a barber whose quiet demeanor masked deep political conviction. Raymond was involved in legal support efforts for the Scottsboro Boys, 9 Black teenagers falsely accused of rape in 1931. The case exposed how deeply racial bias distorted Southern justice. Through it, Rosa learned that law and morality were not always aligned. By 1943, Rosa Parks joined the NAACP and became secretary of its Montgomery chapter under E.D. Nixon. Her work was meticulous and emotionally heavy. She documented cases of police brutality, racial violence, and sexual assault against Black women, cases rarely prosecuted or even acknowledged. She listened. She recorded. She carried these stories forward. That same year, she encountered Montgomery's bus segregation system directly. Bus driver James F. Blake forced her off a bus for questioning his authority. She complied, but the humiliation endured. She would remember that moment. Montgomery in the 1950s presented itself as orderly and modern. Public buses symbolized progress, yet inside them segregation was absolute. Black passengers boarded at the front to pay, exited, then re-entered through the back. Seats could be taken at any moment. Drivers enforced the rules with unchecked authority. In the summer of 1955, Rosa attended the Highlander Folk School in Tennessee, where activists studied constitutional rights, nonviolent resistance, and collective action. What followed later that year was not impulse. It was preparation. On December 1st, 1955, after a long day working as a seamstress at Montgomery Fair, Rosa boarded a city bus operated by James Blake when the white section filled. Blake ordered for black passengers to stand. 3 obeyed. Rosa Parks did not. She remained calm. When asked why she refused, she later said she was tired not physically, but of giving in. Police were called. She was arrested, fingerprinted, and charged under Montgomery city law. Her arrest was legal. The law itself was unjust. That night, the city shifted. On December 5, 1955, the Montgomery Bus Boycott began. More than 40,000 black residents refused to ride city buses. Churches became coordination centers. Carpools replaced public transit. People walked miles each day through rain, cold, and intimidation. Consider this moment carefully. Was this one woman's defiance enough to change history, or had history been waiting for her courage? The boycott lasted 381 days. Participants faced arrests, bomb threats, and economic retaliation. A young minister named Martin Luther King Jr. emerged as the movement's public voice. Behind the scenes, Rosa Parks endured the consequences. She lost her job. Raymond lost his. Threats followed them constantly. Yet public narratives softened her role, portraying her as a passive figure rather than a seasoned activist. The legal battle unfolded through a federal case challenging bus segregation. In 1956, segregation on Montgomery buses was ruled unconstitutional. Later that year, the Supreme Court upheld the decision. On December 20, 1956, Montgomery officially desegregated its buses. The victory reshaped American law. The cost reshaped Rosa Parks' life. By 1957, unable to find work and exhausted by constant fear, the Parks family left Montgomery for Detroit. The North offered no escape from inequality. Housing discrimination, economic hardship, and racial tension followed them. Rosa worked factory and sewing jobs, struggled financially, and battled depression. From 1965 to 1988, she worked for Congressman John Conyers, remaining deeply involved in political and social causes. She spoke out against war, mass incarceration, and injustice in all its forms. These positions made her controversial, even as her public image was simplified into symbolism. Yet Rosa Parks' legacy cannot be reduced to one moment or one seat. Her active resistance accelerated the dismantling of legally enforced segregation. The Montgomery Bus Boycott became a model for nonviolent mass protest across the nation. The legal victory it produced weakened the foundations of segregation and helped pave the way for transformative legislation that reshaped American democracy. But her greatest legacy was moral. Rosa Parks redefined heroism. She showed that resistance could be quiet, disciplined, and sustained. That preparation mattered as much as courage. That dignity, when defended without compromise, could confront systems designed to endure. She continued mentoring young activists, supporting communities, and reminding the nation that civil rights was not an event, it was an obligation. When recognition finally arrived, it carried symbolic weight. The Presidential Medal of Freedom, the Congressional Gold Medal, schools, streets, and institutions bearing her name. Yet Rosa Parks measured her life not by honors, but by integrity. On October 24, 2005, at the age of 92, Rosa Parks died. She became the first woman to lie in honor at the United States Capitol Rotunda. The nation paused not in celebration, but in acknowledgement. Rosa Parks did not change history by standing up. She changed it by remaining seated. Her legacy endures wherever unjust authority is challenged peacefully, wherever dignity refuses to yield to fear, and the question she leaves behind remains timeless and unavoidable. When the moment comes, will we be ready to do the same?